If I'm having AI tutor me and help me write, but not just writing it for me, that's a very positive thing. If I'm having something I've written go through ChatGPT and it gives me feedback on just the basic grammar and inconsistencies of my writing, and that can be done. And a teacher doesn't have to do that first, but I do that first, and then I give it to my teacher. Then that kind of that dual feedback of AI first and then the teacher going deeper really can make somebody a better writer. Because again, a teacher doesn't have to spend all their time telling you where to put a comma, but a teacher does need to tell you if your logic doesn't make sense in your writing, or if, well, that topic you went too deep in this area, or you didn't give enough examples. That needs to come from a teacher, not necessarily did you cite things correctly. And so I think there's the ability to use AI as a partner, both in feedback to students as well as helping tutor students along the way. So I think that's a real strength of what could happen in the future.
You're listening to the smartsocial.com podcast. I'm your host, Josh Ochs. This is our District Talk segment where we interview district leaders to learn how they're keeping students safe on social media so those students can someday shine online. Now, let's get back to the interview.
I'm Dr. Matt Gehrett. I am the Education Technology Director at Dinuba Unified School District in Dinuba, California. And we have about 6,600 students. We're in the rural part, central California, and we have about 10 schools.
My name is Jeff Thake. I am the superintendent of the Aberdeen School District number 5 in Aberdeen, Washington. We're out in the Pacific Northwest, right off the ocean, about an hour and 40 minutes south of Seattle. We have 8 schools and approximately 3,100 students who we serve.
Hi, I'm Shelly Viramontez. I am the superintendent of Campbell School District. A bit of a misnomer since most of my schools are in San Jose, California. So we have about 6,100 students. We are a TK through 8th grade district, and we have 12 schools, 8 elementary, 2 comprehensive middle schools, and 2 TK through 8th grade schools.
How is your school district approaching ChatGPT?
Well, we're approaching it as another opportunity, a tool that we can leverage. We've been talking, for instance, in the special education department, you have students who maybe they have dysgraphia or they just have a really hard time starting writing. Well, to have something that can prompt their thinking first, that's much more powerful. It's easier to write with something when someone has started a sentence than it is to just come up with it cold. I was also talking to one of our 8th grade teachers 2 weeks ago, and she was saying that she had done some AI stories and then had the kids correct them. Like, does this sound like an author's voice to you? Where does it not sound like the author's voice? And then also looking for grammar, or basically taking it and saying, how could you improve upon this writing? Which I thought was brilliant. So we're not saying it's taboo, but we're saying it's not the be all end all, because if it doesn't have a human voice, people are going to pick up on it being AI. We also talk about the fact that it will continue to get better. And so it will have that AI voice. I may have mentioned we have a teacher who has used AI to help students understand concepts in science. And so for 2nd grade, he put in all of the concepts. He asked the AI to spit out a song with all of those concepts in a melody that he knew, and then he played the guitar and the kids learned the song. And, we know how music enhances the memory. I have an innovation team, and so it's a team of 3 teachers, and they go in and they teach innovation lessons to the students and release the grade level teachers to do PLC. And so the students have this amazing, innovative learning experience while their teachers are doing PLC. And so it's a win, because one of the things that's been a frustration of mine is often the students' experience dependent on the adult's comfort level with technology. And so this is a way of making sure that all of our students are getting this innovative experience, regardless of the classroom teacher's comfort level with that.
The best way I could answer that, there was a math app I discovered 7 years ago. where if you just like picture, you can just take a picture of the math problem in the textbook and it automatically works out and solves the problem for you. The first thing we need to make, if I were to approach this, it's something I'm unfamiliar with, but I'd want to make sure that number one, staff is aware that this is out there. And number two, it's also it's also a very good instructional leadership question. Do we really want to incorporate higher order thinking skills, or do we want to have like the game show Jeopardy, and when it comes to recall information and how to proceed that way? So I think this program, if I'm understanding it correctly, could really lead to some powerful discussions about what good instruction looks like. Do we want people to just regurgitate facts that they could use with this program, or do we want to see how people can apply how those facts really work in a real world learning environment with a predictable and unpredictable outcome?
Well, we're rapidly trying to approach it. At this point, we've had a few information sessions. Our teachers are aware of it. It is blocked on the network for student use at this point. That I don't know if we'll stay that way, but just yesterday, this last week, I was at the Computer Using Educators Conference in Palm Springs, California, and it was the topic of the day. And everybody was talking about it. It's changing rapidly, absolutely changing rapidly, even in the last few days since I've been back from the conference. I've gone to my boss, the assistant superintendent of curriculum, and said, as your ed tech director, we've got to have a community forum on this sooner than later and build a policy. Hopefully sooner than later, because this is going to drastically change as we roll into school next year. It's already changing things for the rest of this school year, but we have to give guidance to teachers and students about artificial intelligence and how that's going to impact learning and teaching in the future. And so we have to do that. Otherwise, we're going to be all over the board come fall.
Excellent answer. So agree with you. Are there any positive use cases that you've heard from students around ChatGPT?
In full disclosure, I'm just beginning that conversation with students. And so I need to dig into that a little bit more. It's actually on my agenda for my next student advisory council to find out.
Not at this time. Hi. I'm still very unfamiliar with it, but it's certainly going to be a question I ask on Monday in with my cabinet meeting.
Yeah, there's lots of positives. I mean, I was just watching a Sal Khan video from Khan Academy and how he's going to be putting artificial intelligence in Khan Academy. And he has the attitude of walking the fine line between cheating and learning. And I think that we need to define like what is assisting us and what is going too far, and so some prime examples is if I'm having AI tutor me and help me write, but not just writing it for me, that's a very positive thing. If I'm having something I've written go through ChatGPT and it gives me feedback on just the basic grammar and inconsistencies of my writing, and that can be done. And a teacher doesn't have to do that first, but I do that first, and then I give it to my teacher. Then that kind of that dual feedback of AI first and then the teacher going deeper really can make somebody a better writer. Because again, a teacher doesn't have to spend all their time telling you where to put a comma, but a teacher does need to tell you if your logic doesn't make sense in your writing, or if, well, that topic you went too deep in this area, or you didn't give enough examples. That needs to come from a teacher, not necessarily did you cite things correctly. And so I think there's the ability to use AI as a partner, both in feedback to students as well as helping tutor students along the way. So I think that's a real strength of what could happen in the future. I also think that teachers spend a lot of time putting together lesson plans and documentation and writing letters home and things like that. if AI can help get us to like 75% of good content or 80% of good content, and the teachers can then make it more personal and go from there. I think that's the time savings for teachers. And one of the problems we all have as educators, we don't have enough time. So if AI can help us, you know, even without AI, I don't start writing a letter without getting some samples, right? I would go online and find samples and then I would edit from there. Well, now it's just automatic. I say, write a parent letter home, write an email, put it in, make it professional. I need it to have this, this, and this. AI, it's done. I can go fix it up, make it a little more professional, vet it. Of course, everything has to be vetted. Everything has to be looked at. We don't want to just copy and paste and then print it. But if I'm there at 80 or 90%, it saved me time. So I think both for educators and for students, time saving is okay. Not doing everything is okay. I come back from this conference and with my colleagues that were there, and the question is, are we going to be an enlightened world with this? Or are we going to become the Wall-E world, Wall-E the movie, where we have robots and AI do everything for us and we sit in our lounge chairs and don't know how to do anything? I think it's important that, just like with social media and everything else, that we go into this with our eyes wide open. And how do we continue to move people forward so that we don't become Wall-E world, but we become an enhanced, enlightened world, using it effectively alongside us and not just letting it do everything for us. But do I think it will change education? Absolutely. 30 years ago when I started teaching, the internet didn't exist. And I remember telling my wife, I got to know more about this. This is going to change world as we know it. I feel like we're kind of on another watershed moment where I feel like that, like I did 30 years ago, like, yeah, we got to get a hold of this. We got to understand this because it's going to change everything.
Excellent. Great answer. Is your school district changing any of your techniques for grading students and the types of assignments being used in the classroom?
We haven't done that yet, but for years now, we have been pushing on multiple ways for students to demonstrate their learning. So we have podcasting, and I bought licenses for all students in the district. And so having them demonstrate their learning through a podcast rather than just the traditional pencil paper. And so I feel like our grading will evolve, but I've been saying for a long time that our grading needs to evolve. And I've also said if Siri or Alexa can answer the question, it doesn't belong in the classroom. So how are we really engaging the thinking of students? And how are we having them demonstrate mastery? And maybe I'm naive, but I think when students are owning their own learning, when they understand if I cheat, I'm cheating myself, then it kind of takes the fun out of it. Like your friend did this amazing podcast and he created the whole thing on his own, and you got on and you had AI spit something out for you. Where's the pride in that?
Speaking generally about grading, we are looking at expanding standards-based grading a little bit further than where we have it right now. There haven't really been any discussions yet about the relationship between ChatGPT and grading, but these are certainly meaningful conversations that we want to make sure we're having. What's most relevant. The biggest issue right now, I think, instructionally, that we're doing is we're recovering from 3 years of virtual learning in an environment where we know not every student learned best. We're certainly moving in the right direction. We have a little ways to go. ChatGPT has not been part of my conversations yet, but I'm really glad I'm hearing more about this because it certainly needs to be on my radar.
We haven't yet, but that's what I'm saying. By the fall, we need to know what that looks like and be able to give good counsel to our teachers. I believe that individually, there are some departments that have started to talk about this, but as a district, no, we need to have that conversation, and we need to figure out how we grade, how we give feedback, how we define what is student work versus AI work. You know, we need to wrestle with all of those things and give guidance. And it's going to be even different now in August than it is now, because 5 months ago, nobody was talking about ChatGPT. People were, behind the scenes, they knew about it. But as far as the regular person, nobody knew about it. So if we project out 5 months, it's going to be even different, even more different. Some of the apps that we use, that we pay for, they're embedding AI inside of. Like if you go into Canva right now, there's an AI tool in Canva that will create you a brand new graphic based on just giving it a description. There's a company that I saw at Q called CuriPod, which allows you to go in and you give it a topic and it automatically creates you a slideshow with interactive elements. And of course, it's not perfect, but again, it gets you to 80%. And so, again, I think the tools that will exist, that classrooms and districts will be purchasing in the future, if there's not an AI piece to it, it won't be viable. And so I think that if anything, coming back from this conference, I feel like all of the vendors there, if they didn't figure out they need to do that tomorrow, they need to do it, because depending on how a district looks at it, if you see it as a definite assistance in learning, then you're going to want that built into your tools.
Thanks for listening to our smartsocial.com podcast. I'm your host, Josh Ochs. This was our District Talk segment where we interview school district leaders to learn how they're keeping students safe on social media so those students can someday launch into their future by shining online. This episode was brought to you by our smartsocial.com VIP program. It's called the Very Informed Parent Program, which helps you engage your students with teen-led video lessons. Stay one step ahead with our premium parent newsletter and discover hidden features on trending apps on teens' phones and our 54 plus live parent and student-friendly events every single year. You can click on the link below to chat with one of our team members if you want a free pass to our VIP program to support your community with our smartsocial.com resources. And if you're a district leader who has a success story, we would love to feature you on a future episode. You can click the links below to reach out. Thanks so much for listening, and we look forward to seeing you on the next episode. Have a great day.